Do you know the reason most people stay stuck in the same place year after year? It's not because of what other people do to them. It's because they never learn how to master themselves in silence. Today, I'm going to show you how focusing on yourself, quietly, consistently, can completely shift your life in ways you never imagined. Most people in today's world have been programmed to believe that if you are not constantly talking, constantly posting, constantly promoting yourself, then somehow you are falling behind. They equate visibility with progress, and they equate silence with irrelevance. But here's the problem. When you are always loud, when you are always on display, you may look strong on the outside, but on the inside, you're draining yourself. Real strength is never measured by how much noise you can make. It is measured by how much power you can hold when you choose not to speak. Silence is not the absence of power. Silence is the proof that you already possess it. The person who needs to prove their strength by shouting doesn't really have strength. But the person who can sit in silence, focused, disciplined, and unmoved by distractions, that person is building a foundation that no noise can shake. Silence is the training ground of kings and leaders. Think about a weightlifter in the gym. Nobody claps for him while he's sweating, nobody is cheering when he's struggling under the bar, and nobody is broadcasting his early morning grind. The room is silent except for the sound of his breath and his effort. But in that silence, he's getting stronger. In that silence, muscles are being built. In that silence, his strength is being multiplied. That same principle applies to every area of your life. Your business, your finances, your relationships, your personal growth, they all get stronger not when you are announcing everything you are doing, but when you are silently putting in the work that nobody sees. By the time people notice, it's too late for them to deny it, because your strength has already been built. What most people don't understand is that silence creates space for mastery. When you are constantly speaking, you don't have time to listen. And when you don't listen, you miss the very insights that could change your life. Silence is where wisdom speaks the loudest. It's where clarity comes, it's where strategy is born, and it's where your spirit gets aligned with your assignment. The world is noisy, scrolling, talking, debating, arguing, but if you can discipline yourself to step away from the noise and enter into the quiet, you will find yourself accessing a level of focus that the average person never even experiences. And that focus is strength. Because strength is not just physical, it's mental, emotional, and spiritual. It is the ability to endure pressure without crumbling, and that is only developed in silence. Look at nature. A seed doesn't grow in the spotlight. It grows underground, in darkness, in silence, where nobody is watching. It pushes through the soil silently. It develops its roots silently. And only when it is strong enough does it break the surface for the world to see. But by the time you see the flower, by the time you see the tree, the real work has already been done in the silent seasons. That's exactly how human transformation works. Your silent seasons are not wasted, they are necessary. They are the roots that hold you up when the storms of life come. And if you skip the silence, you skip the strength. The reason so many people look strong but collapse under pressure is because they have never embraced silence. They've built an image, but they haven't built themselves. They know how to speak, but they don't know how to sit still. They know how to perform, but they don't know how to prepare. And preparation always happens in silence. That's why silence is not weakness. It is one of the greatest signs of strength. When you can keep moving without announcing, when you can keep working without bragging, when you can keep believing without seeking validation, you are proving to yourself that your strength is real and not dependent on applause. One of the greatest mistakes people make in life is that they spend more energy trying to be noticed than they spend trying to be developed. They want the world to pay attention to them before they have given themselves something worth paying attention to. They want recognition without preparation, validation without discipline, and applause without mastery. But here's the truth. The world does not truly focus on you until you first focus on yourself. People may glance at you, they may hear about you, they may even talk about you, but sustained influence only comes when you have built yourself into someone who cannot be ignored. You don't get there by demanding attention. You get there by disciplining yourself in private until your results become too visible to be denied. Think about the way most people approach success today. They build their entire life around the perception of progress rather than the reality of progress. They are constantly posting updates, announcing plans, talking about what they are about to do. But if you strip away the words, there is no substance behind them. They've mistaken attention for achievement. And as long as you confuse attention with achievement, you will remain stuck in cycles of frustration, because the world may pay you temporary attention, but it will never give you lasting respect. Respect comes from results, and results come from focus. Deep, consistent focus on yourself before anyone else even cares. When you truly begin to focus on yourself, you stop competing with everybody else's timeline. You stop measuring your growth by what other people are posting. You stop comparing your chapter 2 with someone else's chapter 10. Instead, you begin to build brick by brick, discipline by discipline, habit by habit, until you are shaping a version of yourself that can handle the weight of destiny. See, it's easy to want the spotlight, but it's another thing to be able to carry it. If you are not strong enough to carry who you are in silence, you will not be strong enough to carry who you become in the spotlight. And that's why your self-focus must always precede public focus. Consider the lives of great athletes. Before the cameras are rolling, before the fans are cheering, before the trophies are given, there are countless hours of training that nobody sees. Those hours don't trend on social media. Those hours don't make headlines. But those hours are what make the headlines possible. The athlete is not training for the attention. They are training to master themselves. They are focused on their own body, their own mindset, their own discipline. And because they focused on themselves first, the world eventually has no choice but to focus on them. That is the principle of life. Mastery attracts attention, but attention does not create mastery. Another thing that happens when you focus on yourself first is that you develop resilience. When the world finally does focus on you, it will not always be applause. Sometimes it will be criticism, misunderstanding, or even rejection. If you have not already built your identity in the quiet place, you will crumble under the weight of outside opinions. But if you have spent time building yourself in silence, you won't need the world's validation to keep moving forward. You will know who you are. You will know what you've been working on, and you will know what you're capable of because your foundation was not built on applause. It was built on focus. Focusing on yourself before the world focuses on you also protects you from the trap of premature exposure. Too many people want to be seen before they are ready, and when they get exposed too soon, the weight of attention crushes them instead of elevating them. But when you spend your time in silent focus, you allow yourself to grow at the right pace. You develop your character, your skills, your mindset, and your resilience so that when the world does finally turn its attention your way, you are not scrambling to keep up. You are already prepared. People talk a lot about what they want to do, who they want to become, and what they plan to achieve. The world is full of words, promises, declarations, and big statements about the future. But words are cheap without discipline. Discipline is the invisible force that turns ideas into reality, dreams into results, and potential into performance. When you operate in discipline, you don't have to keep telling people what you're going to do, because your life begins to show it. The truth is, discipline will always speak louder than words, because people may doubt what you say, but they cannot deny what you consistently do. Discipline is the great separator. It separates those who wish from those who achieve, those who try from those who finish, those who start with excitement from those who end with results. Anyone can speak. It costs nothing to speak. But it costs something to wake up earlier than you feel like, to study when everyone else is distracted, to practice when nobody is watching, to sacrifice comfort for progress. That is why discipline carries so much weight, because it proves that your commitment runs deeper than your conversation. Every time you choose discipline over convenience, you are sending a message not just to the world, but to yourself, that you can be trusted with your own goals. When you watch the lives of truly successful people, what stands out is not that they had the loudest voices or the biggest announcements. What stands out is the discipline they lived by. They understood that routine builds results, and consistency builds credibility. They didn't get distracted by trying to convince everyone how committed they were. They prove their commitment by showing up day after day without needing applause. And the fascinating thing is, the more disciplined you are in silence, the louder your results speak when the time comes. You don't need to explain yourself when your life is producing undeniable evidence of your focus. The danger for most people is that they fall in love with the language of success, but not the lifestyle of success. They can talk about their vision with passion, they can describe their dreams in detail, but when it comes time to put in the work, they shrink back. They look for shortcuts, they wait for motivation, or they hope circumstances will align in their favor. But discipline doesn't wait on feelings or conditions. It is a decision that gets carried out regardless of the situation. Discipline says, I don't need to feel like it to do it. I don't need approval to continue. I don't need a perfect environment to stay consistent. And that mindset alone will take you further than talent, because talent without discipline is wasted potential. Think about the way people respond to consistent discipline. They may not notice it at first, they may even ignore it, but eventually results make noise. Eventually, the disciplined person begins to separate themselves in such a way that people cannot help but pay attention. And what is interesting is that when your discipline speaks, you don't even have to. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to debate. You don't have to keep proving your worth. The fruit of your discipline does the talking for you. That's why discipline is one of the greatest forms of communication. It is silent, but it is undeniable. The reason so many people struggle to make progress in life is not because they lack ability, and it's not because they lack opportunity. It is because they are drowning in distractions. The world has more noise than ever before. Constant notifications, endless scrolling, people's opinions flying in every direction, entertainment available at every second of the day. And in the middle of all that noise, the most important voice of all gets buried: your own. Your inner voice, your inner conviction, the part of you that knows exactly who you are and what you are capable of, gets silenced under the weight of everyone else's opinions and expectations. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do in life is learn to remove distractions. Because when you remove distractions, you give yourself the gift of clarity. Clarity is not something you stumble upon. It is something you create. And it is created when you learn how to step away from noise long enough to hear yourself think. You cannot build your future while being consumed by the chaos of everyone else's agenda. You cannot write your own story if you're constantly reading the script of other people's lives. When you allow distractions to dominate your time, you lose the focus that could have built your dream. But when you make the choice to unplug, to turn off the voices that don't matter, to distance yourself from environments that pull you away from purpose, suddenly you begin to hear the whisper inside of you that says, "This is who you are. This is what you were made to do." That whisper is your direction, but you'll never catch it until you remove what's drowning it out. The truth is, distractions are not always negative things. Sometimes they come disguised as good things, things that feel urgent, things that keep you busy, but don't actually move you closer to your calling. People can become distractions. Social media can become a distraction. Even constant conversations, debates, and the need to always know what's happening in the world can distract you from what's happening inside of you. And when you live in constant distraction, you become reactive instead of proactive. You end up living by accident instead of on purpose, because your attention is being hijacked by everything around you instead of being directed by what's within you. When you start removing distractions, you'll notice something powerful. You begin to think differently. Ideas that were buried under noise begin to surface. Solutions to problems you've been struggling with suddenly become clear. Strategies for your next step begin to unfold. Your creativity wakes up, your focus sharpens, and your energy increases. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you finally created space for your own voice to be heard. That's why some of the most successful and effective people in the world value solitude. They value the ability to step away, to shut out the noise, and to reconnect with their own thoughts. They understand that the voice that matters most is the one that aligns them with their purpose. It takes courage to remove distractions because distractions are addictive. They provide comfort, entertainment, and temporary escape. But if you allow them to dominate your life, they rob you of progress. It's not that you don't know what to do, it's that you can't hear yourself long enough to remember it. And that's the hidden cost of distraction. It steals the wisdom you already possess by burying it under constant noise. When you strip away those distractions, you'll realize you were never lacking direction. You were lacking the silence required to hear it. One of the most exhausting things you can do in life is constantly trying to prove yourself to people. Trying to explain yourself, defend your decisions, justify your actions, or convince others of your potential is a never-ending cycle that drains your energy and steals your focus. The truth is, no matter how much you talk, there will always be people who doubt you, criticize you, misunderstand you, or simply don't believe in you. And if your life becomes a response to their opinions, you'll waste valuable time arguing with voices that will never support you. But when you shift your mindset and make results your response, you stop wasting energy on arguments and you start investing that energy into building undeniable proof, because results say more in one moment than words can say in a lifetime. When you let results become your response, you no longer feel the pressure to win every debate or defend every decision. You learn the power of silence, because silence backed by results speaks louder than the loudest critic. Imagine two people. One is always talking about what they're going to do. The other is quietly working and producing visible progress. Over time, the one who works without arguing commands more respect than the one who talks without producing. That is the difference between chasing validation and creating evidence. Validation fades, but evidence remains. Your evidence is your results, and when people see results, they cannot deny them even if they dislike you. Results have a unique ability to silence opposition. You don't have to clap back, you don't have to explain yourself, and you don't have to beg for acceptance when your life is producing fruit. If someone doubts you, the most powerful thing you can do is not argue. It is to let time reveal the proof of your consistency. Let them watch you grow. Let them watch you build. Let them watch you transform until the very things they mocked you for become the very things they admire. That transformation does not happen through explanations. It happens through execution. And execution requires focus, consistency, and discipline, which is why results are not just evidence of your ability. They are evidence of your character. Another truth about letting results be your response is that it shifts your focus inward instead of outward. When you are busy trying to prove yourself, your energy is directed at them. But when you are committed to producing results, your energy is directed at you. You are no longer concerned with their timeline, their judgment, or their applause. You are concerned with your progress, your improvement, your mission. And when your focus is on you, you stop getting distracted by noise because you realize that your results will outlive any opinion. People may forget what you said, but they will never forget what you did. Results also create credibility in a way that words cannot. Anyone can promise, but only results prove. When people see that you have actually built something, overcome something, achieved something, they trust you differently. They listen differently. Your influence expands not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. That's why results are not just for you. They are also for the people you are called to impact. Your results become a testimony, a living example that proves what is possible, and that proof can inspire others in a way no speech ever could. Letting results be your response is not about ignoring people. It's about prioritizing progress over arguments. It's about choosing the higher road where your energy is not wasted on battles that produce nothing. Every hour spent debating could be an hour spent building. Every word wasted in defense could be a brick laid toward your vision. And when the building is finished, when the fruit is visible, when the results are undeniable, the same people who once doubted you will have no choice but to acknowledge what you've become, because results have a voice that cannot be silenced. One of the hardest things for people to accept in life is the role of patience. We live in a world that celebrates speed, instant results, and overnight success stories. People want transformation without process. They want elevation without preparation. They want the reward without the waiting. But the truth is, real power is never built overnight. Real power is forged in the silent seasons, where patience is required. Patience is not passive. It is the ability to keep working, keep believing, and keep preparing even when nothing seems to be happening. Patience is what turns silence into power, because it gives your effort the time it needs to grow roots before producing fruit. Without patience, silence feels empty, but with patience, silence becomes the most fertile ground for transformation. The reality is that silence can be uncomfortable. It can feel like nothing is moving, nothing is changing, and nothing is happening. But patience teaches you to trust the process. Just like a farmer plants seeds in the soil, covers them, and waits for the rain, your life also requires a waiting season. You cannot dig up the seed every day to check if it's growing. You have to trust that the unseen work beneath the surface is just as important as the harvest that comes later. That trust is patience, and that patience is what creates power. Because when your season of growth finally arrives, the strength you gained in the waiting will allow you to handle the weight of what comes next. Patience also develops character in a way that nothing else can. When you are forced to wait, you learn discipline, resilience, and endurance. You learn how to keep moving without immediate results, and you learn how to keep your faith strong when circumstances don't match your vision. That process builds something in you that quick success never could. If you get everything too quickly, you become shallow, easily shaken, and unable to sustain your success. But when you are patient, you build depth. You build a foundation that cannot be moved by temporary storms, because you have already been tested by the silence and proven to yourself that you can endure. That endurance becomes power. Patience also protects you from premature exposure. Too many people want to be seen before they are ready, but visibility without maturity can destroy you. When you are forced to wait in silence, you are being protected and prepared. You may not realize it in the moment, but patience is keeping you from being crushed by a weight you cannot yet carry. Every delay has a purpose, and every silent season has a lesson. When you embrace patience, you stop seeing waiting as wasted time and start seeing it as preparation time. The preparation may not be glamorous, but it is necessary. And when you finally step into the spotlight, the strength you gained through patience will keep you there. Another dimension of patience is that it gives you mastery over your emotions. Impatience leads to frustration, frustration leads to rash decisions, and rash decisions create setbacks. But when you practice patience, you are no longer ruled by impulse. You are steady, focused, and strategic. You understand that time is working for you, not against you. You don't panic when things move slowly, because you recognize that slow growth often lasts longer than fast success. This mindset gives you power over pressure, because while others are rushing, you are resting in the confidence that your time will come. The silent seasons of patience also sharpen your vision. When you are waiting, you have time to refine your plans, to strengthen your skills, and to align yourself with your purpose. You are not distracted by applause or criticism, so you can hear your own voice more clearly. And in that clarity, you begin to prepare not just for opportunities, but for sustainability. Many people miss this. They think the goal is just to arrive, but the true goal is to remain. Patience ensures that when you arrive, you are not only ready to step into your moment, but you are strong enough to stay there. One of the most powerful shifts you will ever experience in your life begins when you stop directing all your energy outward and start directing it inward. Too many people waste years of their lives looking left, looking right, watching what everybody else is doing, trying to keep up with the crowd, and trying to prove themselves to people who don't even care about their progress. They are constantly looking for approval, constantly looking for validation, constantly looking for recognition, and in that pursuit, they neglect the most important work of all, the work on themselves. You cannot build a strong future when your eyes are always on somebody else's journey. You cannot grow into the person you were designed to be if your time is consumed with noise, comparison, and competition. The real transformation begins when you silence the noise around you, stop broadcasting every move, and choose to focus on yourself. When you focus on yourself, you start to notice the things you've been ignoring. You notice your weaknesses, not to shame yourself, but to strengthen yourself. You notice your strengths, not to brag about them, but to multiply them. You begin to see where your time has been wasted, where your energy has been scattered, and where your habits have been holding you back. That awareness does not come when you are constantly talking, explaining, or announcing. It comes when you are silent enough to reflect and intentional enough to work. Silence gives you the space to hear your own voice again, to reconnect with your own vision, and to realign with your own goals. That is why silence is not weakness. It is a strategic weapon that gives you clarity, and clarity produces growth. The reason silence is so powerful is because it shifts your focus from performance to preparation. Many people want to be seen, they want to be applauded, they want to be recognized, but they do not want to prepare. They are more interested in being noticed than in being developed. But here's the truth. When you are focused on preparing yourself, when you are focused on building your skills, your discipline, your mindset, and your character in silence, the results will show up louder than any announcement ever could. You don't need to tell people what you are doing when your transformation speaks for itself. You don't need to argue with people about your potential when your life becomes living proof of it. The quiet seasons where nobody is watching are the very seasons that prepare you for the moments when everybody is watching. Focusing on yourself also teaches you self-control. It helps you resist the urge to prove yourself prematurely. There is nothing more dangerous than being exposed before you are ready, and there is nothing more destructive than trying to shine before you have built the strength to handle the light. When you focus inward, you take the time to grow roots before you show leaves. Just like a tree, you must first dig deep into the soil of discipline, character, and consistency before you can rise tall for the world to see. Without those roots, you may rise quickly, but you will also fall quickly. With those roots, you may take longer, but when you rise, nothing can easily move you. That is the difference between those who collapse under pressure and those who thrive under pressure, the quiet preparation that happens when no one is watching. What happens when you truly focus on yourself and stay silent is that life begins to shift in ways you cannot imagine. People begin to see changes in you that you never had to announce. They begin to notice growth that you never had to broadcast. Your energy changes, your mindset changes, your habits change, and eventually your circumstances begin to change as well. And it all begins not by chasing attention, but by removing distractions, silencing unnecessary noise, and committing to the hard but rewarding work of self-development. In the silence, you become sharper, stronger, and more intentional. In the silence, you lay the foundation for the life you desire. And in the silence, you discover that the most powerful transformation is never announced. It is lived, and once it is lived, the results cannot be ignored